Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
What's wrong with Australia today?
For me, it's leadership. There's just a lack of leadership.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
And it's good to see the community come out and really engage in this issue of parental rights.
You only have one vote, but it's very powerful. Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. You know? Shame on you people. You know? You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joints.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. Thank you to everyone who are watching us live on YouTube, Facebook and Rumble. If you are watching us live on each one of those platforms, you can contribute to today's conversation through the chat. We would love to hear your comments and maybe some of your questions as well. And also at some point today, I'll put the link to StreamYard in the chat also, so you can call in. I had someone on the weekend ask me, how do you call in? Well, it's just a matter of clicking that StreamYard link. It's the same link that I send all our guests. So it's a way for you to come on. Just use your phone or your laptop or any recording device that you might have, and you can call in and make a comment and have a discussion with us as well. But today's episode, I've called this one Against Better Judgment. And that's because you guys were on suspension after the last episode. We had you here. I brought you back on probation, mainly because you guys were brought back by popular demand, believe it or not. People were coming up to me and saying, when are you going to have Sam and Richard on again? We love to hear Sam and Richard. And I said, those guys are on suspension at the moment, but you guys have to behave yourselves today, all right?
We'll try. I'll try.
Yes? No more. I've banned the water, so we can't spill any water. Are you comfortable with your seat? You're not going to play around with the microphone or move the table or anything like that?
No.
No, you're okay? We don't have any guests for you to abuse.
Good. Okay, right. Well, I've got some facts. I've got some facts for you.
Go on.
I haven't been officially introduced today, but my name's Sam Buono.
Oh, sorry. Sam Buono. And I thought it was just, people would just assume. And Richard Storch. Thank you for hosting us at least, Richard, even though I come in here and abuse you.
That's fine.
I've been studying all your 42 episodes.
Here we go.
And this is a fact, audience, and the people in the public. When Richard and myself are on, we have the highest amount of views. So we have popularity within this screen, and that's a fact. Some of these shows have been getting 2,500, 3,000 hits. And there's some other prominent people who've been on this podcast and don't get bellied into triple figures. So by popular demand, we're back.
So what you're saying, people would rather hear you guys than Mark Latham or Gigi Foster or anyone that we've had on recently.
Correct.
Well, if you don't know what we're talking about, if you have no idea, why is Stephen going on so hard on these two gentlemen? Let's remind you of what happened last time. This is when we had a member of Parliament, the leader of the Libertarian Party, the Honourable John Ruddick, came on, and he was just expressing a very simple view.
That were anti-COVID hysteria. Okay. And I know that Adam and Steve were. I think sort of our other mate, Sammy, I think he sort of went along with it for a fair bit. But let's say most of your viewers would have been people who thought the government...
What did you say? I beg your pardon?
Oh no, you poked the bear.
What'd you say?
I said that I know that Adam and Steve were freedom marchers, were against the COVID, turned up to the anti-COVID protests. I don't think you were there, Sammy. Is that right? At the freedom march?
John, anyone told you're a flat track bully?
Okay, settle. This is
Look,
civil
if I'm
conversation.
wrong,
You love dishing it out on me, don't you? You love dishing it out, but you
Well,
can't cop it back, sunshine. I told you this privately, and I'm saying to you publicly.
I don't know where
He
this is
copies from
coming
you
from.
back all the time, Sam. That's all you do is,
Huh?
show up to events on
What
radio.
have you called out of wonder?
Look, we can have our differences.
We're not
I
gonna
don't know
this.
why you've got to be under your bonnet. My point is, most of the
You
viewers,
hate most of us. Don't lie.
As you can imagine, it was very embarrassing at the time, but now we can laugh about it.
My only excuse was it'd been a long week. I'd done a week of polling for my mate in my local council election, and I was just tired and stuff like that. And I just thought there'd be another. I just got the wrong scenario, and I just lost concentration. I was tired, and I let steam off on.
I disagree. I don't think you lost concentration. I think you were gunning for that. I think you were waiting for the opportunity.
Not really, but it just. He was gunning for me. And I thought, what was he doing gunning for me? And there was we had a couple of private conversations the last couple of years about this sort of stuff. And I thought, he shouldn't have brought that up. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I accept I blew my top. I accept that, that's what's happened, and life goes on.
I can't wait till you blow your top at Richard.
Yeah, that'd be great. Go for it.
At least I know where it's coming from. That's all. I got rattled, and the Italian in me blew my mind off, and that was it. And trust me, Fleers, I was angry at myself for a couple of days afterwards and stuff like that. I just lost it, and I don't know why.
Anyway, if you want to show some love for Sam and Richard and maybe commanding the narrative, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee now. If you'd like to throw us a few dollars at Buy Me a Coffee, like some wonderful people have, just like Felicity, she bought us 3 coffees through the week. Felicity said, "Thank you, Stephen, and your tireless efforts and for putting on good guests." So thank you very much, Felicity. Those 3 coffees help to pay for the stream, helps to pay for the website, and also, most importantly, it gives me a very warm and fuzzy feeling inside, which is very, very important, especially according to Katie McCallum. So big shout out to Katie, who's got a big election coming up this weekend in Queensland.
That's right. She's running in Cedar Gaven, is it?
Gympie. Yeah. So best of wishes, even though she's running in the wrong party. Best of wishes to Katie, and I hope you do well. I'm sure people will vote for you, not the party. So well done, Katie. Also, if you want to keep up to date with everything that we're doing at Commanding the Narrative, head to commandingthenarrative.com. It's very, very easy. You don't have to worry about the .au or anything like that. It's just simply commandingthenarrative.com. You can stay up to date with all the podcasts that we do. We've got actually a global discussion forum coming up very, very soon that you can be a part of. So head to the website, click the sign up button in the top right hand corner, and you can keep up to date with everything via a weekly newsletter that you receive from me. It will include all our podcasts, articles, events, everything that we've got rods in the fire about. So it's the best way to keep up to date with us. Please sign up if you haven't already. And lastly, if you want to get some unfiltered news out there, the uncensored truth, head to the Light Australia website. There's a new issue out now, which I'm featured in. I have a small article in there, so please support the Light. With misinformation and disinformation laws, I say this every single time, they're looming over us, and somewhere in the future we might not be able to rely on podcasts like this to get information out, or views, or just opinions. The Light newspaper, hard copy newspapers might be the only way of getting information out. So support it now. Support it. It's free. All we need is distributors. If you do want to distribute anywhere in Australia, I think it's about 15 cents a copy to print, and you can distribute it. Just head to the Light Australia website, click up, find the link that says distribute and sign up. Or if you are in Sydney and close to the Northern Beaches, a pallet has been paid for. So all we need is for people to distribute the Light, get it out there. You don't have to pay for it. Just call the number 0406 861 816, and you can help to distribute the Light, which I think is very, very important, especially in today's circumstances and environment.
Mate, with this misinformation, disinformation bill coming through, I'll be interesting what Albo does with it. And I don't think he's going to. Well,
it's incredibly unpopular,
but he's got the numbers. the Greens will vote with it.
If he doesn't have the numbers of the Australian population, he's getting a lot of. There's a lot of submissions. There's
On
a lot of pushback.
the political numbers, mate. Numbers is the biggest killer, mate. The numbers says it all. I think he's got the numbers. I think Lambie will go over it, and so will Pocock.
Well, as I said, I called this episode Against Better Judgment. Paul is in the chat, and speaking of the Light newspaper and that phone number I gave out, you can call Paul directly. But Paul said, "Love the title." So it falls in agreement with me, I think.
That's the way.
You know, I'm treading on very, very trepidatious ground, having you two fireheads on.
We're okay when we're all three of us together.
Yeah, we're all right.
You know what? I will say this though. That clip of John Ruddick, and good on John Ruddick for coming on. I've said it, you know, even though I disagree with him on some of the finer aspects of libertarianism, but good on him for coming on defending the ideology.
Yeah,
good on for Rob Cribb for also doing the same. But I'll say this, that clip that we just played is probably the best thing that has happened in New South Wales politics all year. Would you guys agree with that?
Why would you say that?
I think it's it's just funny. I mean, what else happens in that chamber? Nothing. John Ruddick's up there talking about, you know, legalizing alcohol in parklands and stuff like that. This is far better. I think he should be putting this on his Twitter page and getting some publicity out of this. I think
he's that's passed. I think that's been passed. I think it got passed last night.
I think it got rejected from what I was.
Oh, that part of it. Oh, right. I thought it was a bill. Wasn't the bill come from the? Isn't that part of the 24/7 entertainment stuff they want? The government wants to revitalise the CBD.
I saw a clip of Ruddick going through all the people that had spoken.
That's right. Yeah,
thanking them and having a go at some of them.
Yeah, he had to go at the shooters, who basically calls them the Country Labor Party. So well, they've always been Labor inclined, the shooters in New South Wales.
Now, if you're hanging with us, get on the chat. We want to hear your comments because I think we're going to go long today, which you guys love.
I'm my oath.
And and we've got a lot to talk about.
We're not short and sharp. We're detailed.
Okay.
We do.
And rambling.
Well, we've got plenty to say.
Okay, so the first thing I want to touch on is the US presidential election. We're getting very, very close.
Yeah,
it's heating up. It looks like there's a lot of support for Trump, and a lot of right-wing media are saying that he's going to have a landslide.
Yeah.
I know I spoke to you a couple of days ago. You disagree, Sam. Richard, I haven't heard your thoughts, but maybe Sam, will start with you. What are the polls looking like?
It's all neck and neck, and Trump's up in a lot of the Rust, certainly the Rust Belt states, and he's more clear in the Rust Belt states of Michigan, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. But in the Sun Belt states, which is Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, it's really neck and neck right there. So some of the things the Democrats have been saying lately, I thought this is getting unhinged now. Calling Trump Hitler, that's just ridiculous, and that just defies logic. You know? People don't remember what he did for years in between 16 and 20. There was no Hitler in that. You know, what the hell's going on? You know, more Hitlers are people who protested on the streets on BLM and all that sort of stuff. That was a deliberate ploy.
Well, there's an old saying in politics: if Hitler enters your debate, you've lost.
Yeah, that's good point, Richard. Good point, son.
It's just a fundamental point.
When you're desperate,
I do believe that Trump probably said that he wanted generals like Hitler had, and who wouldn't? Yeah. Hitler had all the best generals. As far as a group of generals go, no one had a better group of generals than Hitler.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, you can't. I mean, the circumstances of World War II, and I know you're a historian, and I think a lot of these comments are coming from people that don't know history.
Well, they're reactive. They're not actually thinking. They're just going, Hitler. Oh God, Hitler.
Yeah. And we talk about the loss that the Germans suffered in World War II, but the circumstances they were going up against, especially when there were two fronts, and you had at one point about 6 million Soviet soldiers coming at you from the east. I think there was about 2 million Germans. You have to have incredibly good generals to be able to hold off a force like that for as long as
incredible leadership and organization.
Not to mention Blitzkrieg and everything that came,
but also on the Western Front too.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I mean, we're talking about they were great in attack, and then they were great in defense. Like General Heinrici, who no one's ever heard of, invented the empty bag. It was like he was almost psychic. He would wait until the Russians were going to attack, and he would pull back most of his troops out of the Russian artillery.
Yeah, not to mention
As
they
an
were
empty
low on
bag.
food, they were low on ammunition, they were low on heavy armor.
They had huge
they had no tanks
transport
left.
logistics problems. Yeah, everything was difficult, but they still had incredible organization and leadership. And so if Trump did make
you had Hitler over the top of them, like
intervening,
derailing,
and causing trouble. So, sure. But I mean, if Trump made a reference to the talents and abilities of German generals in World War II, he wasn't far wrong. That's actually a statement of absolute veracity.
Well, look, it just goes to show they'll try and use anything they can against Donald Trump.
That's just calling people Hitler. That's just ridiculous.
Well, it's completely out of context apart from everything else.
It's a sign of desperation.
Are they desperate? Are they seeing something in the
Totally.
polls that they don't like?
Totally.
Because you're saying it's close.
Yeah.
I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close at all.
I'm just taking confidence in the pollsters.
Yeah, but the
Improving.
pollsters often get it wrong.
But can't be not as bad as they did in 16 and stuff like that, or Morrison in 19. That's all.
See, I look at it. I look at 2020, and Trump had incredible momentum. Joe Biden was doing these silly little rallies with cars, and there'd be 10 people there, whereas Trump was on stage dancing and celebrating and having a great time. And it looked like all the momentum was with him. And even in the early results coming through, it looked like he'd won. But then it all went awry, and we can obviously talk about reasons as to why that could have happened. But it's a very similar situation now. I feel Trump still has incredible momentum. Doesn't look like Kamala's really doing anything, and she can't.
She is doing something. She's digging herself into a deeper and deeper hole. As Richo said, if you're in a hole, stop digging, mate. And Richo's the smartest politician that's ever lived. So
you're talking about Graham Richardson for people that don't know.
Yeah. So she has the worst record of any senator for staff retention. Now that should exclude her from any leadership position in the first place. If someone can't actually empower the people that work for them, they've got no business taking any leadership position in the second place. That's just the way it is. And we all know that there's senators and MPs in our parliament that are exactly like that. They're just nut jobs, and they completely crack it and lose it with the people that work with them. There's currently a case going against a Green senator, who I'm not going to mention by name. Okay. But she's had 20 resignations in 2 years. It's like she's obviously a complete nut job.
You talk to me a lot behind the scenes about the Enneagram. It's not something that we've touched on on this podcast. I think you mentioned it briefly.
Yeah.
With this election looming so close, what's your assessment from that perspective, the Enneagram perspective of the two candidates?
Well, they're both the same personality type, which is the challenger protector. The difference is that Trump has got different survival drives. So he's a social subtype. So he is about group and his people and stuff like that. Whereas Kamala's a sexual subtype. So she is all about she is all about finding the one and being sort of glamorous and good looking and alluring and all this sort of stuff and sort of getting attention in that kind of way. So generally speaking, you're going to have overall a better quality of leadership with social subtypes because they're concerned with the survival of the group.
Okay. So that's why he's so concerned with making America great again.
Yeah. He's concerned with nation, with group, with his people, and protecting them and challenging anything that's in the way. She's concerned with challenging and protecting her own image because she's trying to attract the one or the true one.
So why can't people see that?
Because they haven't studied the Enneagram. I mean, for me, it's as obvious as just looking at someone and seeing what colored clothes they're wearing. Right, because I've studied it for 15 years. and that personality type does quite well in politics because they're natural leaders and powerful and overbearing, and they like being in charge.
Okay.
They don't necessarily make the best leaders, but I point to people like Paul Keating, Jeff Kennett, Barnaby Joyce, Jacinta Price, people like that.
Where does what states does Trump really have to win to get ahead?
They say about they say that the Democrats have to win Pennsylvania. Where I think if Trump loses Pennsylvania, he's got other avenues.
Okay.
To get to 270.
So it's going to be easier for Trump.
He's got more pathways.
Okay.
So if he wins Pennsylvania, I don't think the Democrats can win, unless they can win.
I don't think they can win now. They haven't got a leader.
I'm just looking at the pathway for the Democrat side of it. That's all, Richard. I just say where Trump can lose Pennsylvania, but he can win the other. He can win the other states. That's what I'm saying. You know, he can win Michigan, Wisconsin. You know, I'm not convinced that Trump will win Wisconsin. That's all. If the Democrats win Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, that means there's no margin for error.
See, you're looking at all the states and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the jockeys, not the horses.
Right.
So in terms of the jockeys, Kamala doesn't even know which way she's supposed to be going.
Fair enough. I'm just looking at the numbers. That's all, and see there's pathways to 270. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I accept the veracity of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I think she's already lost.
Should we explain the electoral college, because this is going to come into play? It's something that it took me a while to get my head around, but when it clicks in your head, it becomes very, very easy to understand.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, you have the 50 states in America. They want to balance the representation to a point. So obviously, California has a massive population, and that is a big reason why Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
That's right, and New York,
but didn't win, and New York, which has a big population. Texas has a big population. A lot of the smaller states are in the center. They tend to go Republican, but they have a smaller population.
That's right.
So what they basically do is they look at each state, they look at their population, and they designate delegates. So
to the electoral college.
Yeah, to the electoral college. So I think California has about 50 odd.
Yeah, I think it's the highest one.
Yeah, where
Texas
some of the
44 and New York might be 49 or 48 or something like that.
So and then some of the smaller states may only have 3.
But I think the minimum is 3. I think Dakotas and Idaho and
so you can win
and those
Dakota,
the ones up the far northeast back of.
So like Maine
and New Hampshire and all those smaller states, they're all 2 or 3 or 4 votes.
Yeah, okay.
College votes.
So you can win those states and only get 3 delegates, whereas if you win California, you get 55.
Yeah.
So if you win California, you're in good stead.
Yeah.
But you can't just win California or the popular vote on its own. You need to win a true representation across the whole country.
To a point, yeah.
And when you understand that, it does make some sense.
That's
because
right.
I suppose we've got similar representation in terms of electorates. The country's divided into electorates based on population.
That's correct, but it's basically a representative where in the house voting it's different. They're split up in seats too. But and the electoral college vote for the president, obviously it's a different equation. The American system is very strange. Or rather, to be truthful, fellas and ladies and gentlemen, I think the Westminster system is much better than the American system. That's my personal opinion.
They have a bigger population, though.
More proportional. The only thing unproportional in Australia is that we have 12 senators in town.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Someone's proposed it's a Richard. Okay, let's talk about that now. Actually, let's go into it quickly.
Well, Graham Richardson in the mid-'80s decided to go from 8 senators to 12 senators in Tasmania, thinking that would get more Labor people.
Just got more Greens.
That's right.
Well, that was the expansion of Parliament, which had to happen.
Yeah.
So currently, for people that don't know, and a lot of people don't know this, they should. The Senate is divided into the 12 senators per state.
State.
So New South Wales has 12, but also Tasmania has 12.
Correct.
Doesn't matter about
And
your population.
South Australia.
And South Australia,
Australia.
Western Australia, Victoria. The territories have 2.
That's right.
Okay, so
then-
it has nothing to do with the state's population. It's mainly just the representation of each state, and I guess that's
And
from
territory.
federation.
Yep.
Territory from what the Constitution from 1901, isn't it?
1901. Yeah.
So there's a lot of reforms we could do to the Senate, but one of your ideas, Richard, is that to scrap that, so you don't have 12 senators from each state. Now you have a senator per 2 or 3 electorates.
That's right. And that's proper, fair, balanced representation. In other words, New South Wales with 46 House of Representative seats would have 23 senators, and Tasmania with 5 would have one and a half or two and a half.
Yeah.
But Tasmania shouldn't have 5 House of Rep seats anyway. It should have 3. It's just got a special provision in the constitution that it's got to have a minimum of 5 seats. But basically, what we have in the Senate is something which is totally unrepresentative. It's just obscene. Why someone like Jackie Lambie, with who's been voted by about 50,000 people, has the same representation as a New South Wales senator that needs 1.2 million, is just obscene.
And I think your idea is significant for rural areas. And this is something I've touched on in previous recent podcasts, that they're underrepresented in their areas. So, for example, an area like Parks and maybe what's the one below Murray?
Riverina.
Farrer. So
Farrer, yeah.
Potentially Parks and Farrer could have one senator representing them.
Yeah.
Big area.
Which is still a big area. But then McKellar and Moringa, much smaller area, but they would have one senator representing them.
Yeah, that's on the presumption that you're going to assign senators for specific seats. You could.
So you're talking about they wouldn't necessarily have to border each other?
No. I mean, with New South Wales, what that means is that you would have probably a half a dozen independent senators, because there would be opportunity for senators to get a sufficient vote to get a seat.
Well, that's the other reform that Adam Zara came up with. He said that if you really want a House of Review for the Senate, then there shouldn't be any party affiliation. They should all be independent.
There's not meant to be now.
They're supposed to represent.
They're supposed to represent their states, not a party. So, this is another perversion. And I do say perversion very deliberately. It is a perversion on the original concept of what the place was meant to do and be.
In 1979, the New South Wales Upper House, the Legislative Council, was by invitation.
Yeah.
And you had a job there for life.
Yeah.
I've got a bottom line, and that is that we must reform the Senate to make the country governable, because it's at the moment it's ungovernable. And if we can't do that, we should just abolish it. Like New Zealand and Queensland don't have enough.
Yeah, and I disagree with that. We shouldn't be abolishing the Senate, but we definitely should be reforming it.
I agree with you, but it's like if it becomes too hard, let's just abolish it and start again.
Coming back.
Yeah, but have something there though.
Why? What there just stinks. It's just horrible.
I hope I'm saying this name right. Dilmaz or Dillymaz says, "Oh no, I'm late. Has Storch gotten upset at something yet?" We're warming him up, mate. Don't worry, we'll get there.
We're talking about disproportional in America. A Senate in America, California, New York, and North Dakota have only got 2 senators in each state. So the North Dakota might have a population of 300,000 people, and they've got 2 senators. California's got, what, 20 million people, is it? Or 30 million people in California?
Something ridiculous, yeah.
They've got 2 senators too.
Wow.
Well, look at the ACT. The ACT's got 2 senators. It's got a population of what, 400,000?
Yeah.
And half of them have got no brain in the second place anyway. So that's how you get someone like Pocock there.
Yeah.
Dilmaz says, you mean the parliament is actually supposed to represent the people? Holy smokes. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Good on you, mate.
Actually, I don't mind the New Zealand system. It's a proportional percentages. No, if you get 15,
no upper house.
Well,
Dictator Ardern.
he got flushed out.
God, why do I have you on the show?
Oh,
Just because they don't have as much drama as we do doesn't mean they've got it right. I'm talking about the Kiwis. They're just better at staying out of trouble.
It's been going for 40 years now with David Long. He put the
so
reforms in.
what? I mean, they're still just better at staying out of trouble. You know what the Kiwis are like.
Yeah.
They're more moderate than we are.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sam and Richard also, we'll move on from American politics because we don't really know what's going to happen. We just long for the ride, and I mean, it has been amazing, and anything that Trump's involved with is fantastic, and I love seeing it, especially that that comment, the Al, what was it, the Al Green, the roast that he speaks at, and Kamala refused and didn't go.
Yeah,
and I wish I had the clip ready, but he was saying, talking about white guys for Kamala, and he said, while you guys are voting for Kamala, your wives and their lovers are voting for Trump. I thought that was fantastic. Richard,
do you think do you reckon his tone since that attempted assassination, do you think his tone's a bit more moderate to a point?
I think that he's much more contained.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Yeah.
I just think that he said, well, if I go too far, I could get a proper bullet.
Well, they've had 3 cracks at him already.
Yeah.
I mean, how many more do you want?
I know. Amazing, no one's made reference to that sort of stuff. No one's felt sorry for.
Imagine if he had a candidate that the lefties wanted to be president, other than Vance. I mean, he'd be gone just like that.
I know we're going to move on to the next topic, but I was at the gym last night, and I was like, I'm having these 2 guys. I was going to say something worse, but let's stick to guys. Because I do like having these conversations with you. I must admit, it's probably a guilty pleasure or something like that. But I thought look
at the hits.
Oh, we've come a long way, right? We started this at the end of 2023. I think it was December, and we've come. This is the 42nd episode, but back in the first episode, I think I'd just rewatch it and listen to it. And Richard, you made a bold prediction. I haven't got this clip exactly right, so we'll have it. We'll just make sure that it might not be in the right position, but let's just play it, and then I want to hear your prediction because I want to see if it's come true or not.
Okay.
He hasn't got enough votes.
Precisely.
That's the problem.
Yeah. He's not a contender.
What about
he could come through the middle and do a Morrison between Chalmers.
I'm glad you guys speak closer to the microphones now.
That's right. It's experience.
Tony says he's being frightened of being found out.
Everyone has already found him out. He was frightened before that. He's frightened. He's been frightened all his life. I mean, it's piss-work.
Yeah.
Problem. I think this is. I disagree with Richard, not because we basically disagree on this one.
I wish I had this ready. Hold on.
He looked pretty prime ministerial in Parliament last week.
That comes back to your mutiny point.
Yeah.
But how does it work now with the Labor Party? Because I don't think they can just challenge like they used to. Rudd's brought in this.
What I was told happened in the Premier. And that's the problem with the Rudd.
I should have. Sorry, audience. I should have lined this up, but it was been in a bit of a rush today. But what I'll just paraphrase essentially what you ended up saying, because we're talking about Albanese and he just had the voice loss. And we're talking about maybe a potential leadership challenge. And you said that from that point in December, in 3 to 6 months' time, Albanese wouldn't be leader and it would be Richard Marles or Bill Shorten. Fast forward to now, Albanese's still the leader and Bill Shorten's gone. So why do I have you both on this show when you get these predictions so wrong?
That's what should have happened. I'm just going to double down and to say that is what should have happened. And I'll bet you there's very few people in the Labor Party that don't regret not moving on him.
Tony's in the chat. Sam, you're going to have a big smile about that.
Tony.
What
Tony.
about Canada?
Quickly on Tony, commiseration not getting elected into your local
close.
Very
came close.
100 votes short, wasn't it? Or a bit closer, Tony. Yeah.
Dilmas says about America, civil war. That's what's going to happen.
No.
Neither side will accept the results.
it's a possibility.
No,
Well,
they've been through more divisive times than this.
okay. Well, speaking about stuff close to home, the past weekend saw 3 by-elections here in New South Wales, and also a state election or an election in at the ACT. Firstly, I guess the ACT. I'm not completely across the ACT stuff. Was it a significant result? I know Labor won again. A teal got in.
A teal got in the richest electorate in the.
Oh, surprise!
It's obviously it's a strategy to go into the rich areas and taking votes off that and thing. They were successful again. Instead of Currajong, which is basically 10 kilometres of Parliament House in Canberra, which is well off areas.
Thomas says, "Woulda, shoulda, coulda, Storchy." Okay, so this is a good thing to talk about the by-election because you guys were on the booth throughout the week.
Yep.
You were helping Steve Bush in Hornsby. You were helping Mark Hendricks in Hornsby.
Yep.
You two are opposing each other. I helped the Liberal Party in Pittwater and Georgia Ryburn in her campaign. I guess, firstly, Sam, what, do you think Steve Bush would be disappointed with the result? I know he polled higher in the previous election.
I think he'd be a touch disappointed and even talk to people within the Liberal Party up that way, and they thought that they would get 7-8. One Nation would retain 7-8% of the vote, but obviously, they're a bit disappointing on that side. But that's by-elections. It's hard, and it's hard to judge because Labor didn't run. It's hard to really judge
so there's some big questions about that. As you can see, the result here. Obviously, James Wallace, the Liberal, won quite convincingly, and I know Mark Speakman came out and said this is a true testament of the Liberal Party and how well we're going.
What would he know?
Well,
I met him. He's an idiot.
Well, you made a significant point. The Labor Party didn't run. Were you surprised that didn't help? I mean, the Greens did have a swing of about 11%.
Yeah, but there was 24% available from 18 months ago when
Labor did run.
So there was 24% available, and they got 10.
So where did that other 15, 14, 15% go?
Split everywhere. Gone everywhere. Yep. They had I knew there was a couple independents, the Animal Justice Party, and it just all split up. It's just hard to gauge. And even a couple of Liberal Party people said to me, they were quite reasonable when I talked to them. I just thought, well, let's just win the election and just get going.
So wouldn't that be more damaging for One Nation, considering the fact that Labor Party did split off everywhere?
Yeah.
So part of that should have gone to One Nation, but they've gone backwards.
That's right. They've gone from 7.5 down to 5.5.
So how does that happen? I helped out on the 2023 campaign in Hornsby, and a big factor there was Mark Latham.
No doubt about that.
Mark Latham is no longer in the picture.
Yep.
Did that play a part?
Obviously got no publicity. No publicity. And there was no publicity at all. So I know the candidate did a bit of publicity. There was a bit of a discussion on 2GB the day before. But no, there was no publicity. I don't know what's happened there. There's a couple of stuff I want to say privately. I can't say publicly, but I can't.
Richard, you're gonna. Dildner's gonna be your new best friend. Maybe he's like the comedy. I hope it's a he. I don't know on these Rumble names. I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a she. But it's just like almost the comic relief. Normally, you're the comic relief. But Dilma says the ACT. It's like the cantina in Star Wars, full of villainy and scum.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
Tony says, and Tony might be able to speak on this with some clarity. I'm assuming she's speaking about Steve Bush. He clearly had no backing from the party. Oh, I don't know about that. They had a lot of people up there.
There was a lot of people on the booths on Saturday. I think they manned about 20 booths out of 28.
Yeah.
There was no publicity. A few up. There was no one there to do any media stuff.
Pauline did come down and launch his campaign.
Right.
So how much more do you want?
Well, there's no support after that.
Well, what do you want?
Well, there's
a Queensland election going on.
That's right.
The focus should be.
I think there's a couple of fundamental points about all three by-elections. They weren't really the right ground for minor parties to fight on. the wrong ground in the first place.
Well, why has Hornsby always got such a Melbourne Cup field?
Well, probably to help the majors. You know, I mean, with the vote in Hornsby, I mean, half of it was Liberal vote, and it was baked in, locked in, wasn't even challenged.
And that was your comment from the booth that you spoke to. I called you when you were on the booth, and you said this is heavy Liberal Party territory.
Yeah, it's deep blue. It's
Deep
like,
blue.
and then you've got a quarter of the rest of the voters are voting Green. So there's only 20-25% of voters that are up for grabs in the first.
Whereas when I was there last year, it wasn't so heavily Liberal. There was a lot of Matt Keane backlash. Do you think what's happened is people have looked at this and said, great, Matt Keane's out of the way, I can vote Liberal again?
I think they've given the Liberal Party this candidate the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, except that he's not really very different.
He'll show his true colours in 5 years' time.
Yeah, I mean, the Liberal Party has got a real crisis of confidence, if not conscience.
Pauline. Hello, Pauline. Good to see you, Pauline. Pauline says, bad timing with the Queensland elections. Well, I mean, I guess you would have to say,
but
you'd have to say this, right? Okay, you can't rely on Queensland for if you are in One Nation, you have to have a strong party in New South Wales. Where they still have a state leader. Where was the state leader? Tanya Mahalik? Did she help? Was she at the launch?
Can she help?
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she can or can't. You still have to try, right? You still have to be present. You have to be on the booth. You have to show a presence. Was there any media? Did she put out a statement, a press release? Was there anything? Was there an email?
In theory.
And
anything.
You know what the answer to that is, Stephen? It was a big fat zero.
Yeah.
Well, that's very telling.
I was alluding to that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Once a show pony, always a show pony.
Dilmaz, you're just a comedian today. I'm male, so we know Dilmaz is male. Unless identifying as a female gets me access to better toilet facilities. Tony says Latham helped, didn't he? Well, yeah, Latham was a big,
And the
focused very heavily on Hornsby
and the anti-Matt Keane at the time too.
Yes. Now, before we get off Hornsby, because there were the two others.
No, let's get. We've done the One Nation angle. Let's have the Liberal Party.
Well, I want to talk about the Libertarians, right?
Well, then we'll get back to the Liberal Party.
Why?
That's okay. Because you were on the booth all week, mate. You were there the whole time. You got this candidate.
I was alone. There wasn't anyone else.
Mark Hendricks, he got 3.1% of the vote. Now, look, I got 2% when I ran in Moringa, so that's nothing to poke fun at. But here's what I want to bring up, and this is what I noticed when I came here today. You've got his posters downstairs. Now, I was running in and out. I ran past them twice, and there's two things I noticed. The first time I walked past, I noticed that he had down the bottom, he said a greater vision or greater, I can't remember exactly what the right words were, but a greater vision for Hornsby and New South Wales. But his photo is him standing nowhere in Hornsby. It looks like, I'm assuming he was on Mount Warning, because there's all these rolling fields behind him.
Yeah.
So if I'm living in Hornsby, because I always try and put myself in the voter, in the minds of a voter that knows nothing about politics, walks into a booth and it's all just first impressions. I'm seeing that. I'm like, okay, he's saying that he's standing up for Hornsby, but his photo, he's not even in Hornsby. Okay, so that's what I noticed. I come back a second time. Now, this is what I noticed the second time. It's not even a professional photo. It's a selfie that he's doing with his arm out like this, and he's got his glasses on his head. Now, if I was a voter and I'm looking at the Libertarian Party, I'd be like, these guys are not serious. They're not professional. Why? I mean, how hard is it to go and get a professional photo done for a corflute? Like, if you really want to put yourself up for public life, and I want to raise this point about Steve Bush as well. If you want to raise yourself for public life, you have to show a certain degree of professionalism. Where was that with this candidate?
Well, you're right. It's not there. What you want me to do? I'm going to agree with you. You've made perfect points.
Okay, what did you want to say, Sam, about the Liberal Party?
Well, you've lost the seat in Pittwater.
All right. Well, let's.
And in the other two seats,
the
other two seats, I think they went back to the Liberal Party because they gave them the benefit of the doubt, new candidates, and maybe there's a cost. The further you go away from the coast, cost of living crisis is getting much more.
I want to say this quickly, and I probably shouldn't say this, but that's what this podcast is all about. And I'm probably going to come down a little bit hard on Steve Bush, who is a good guy. I know Steve, and he's a good guy. I felt sorry for Steve, and I felt sorry for some of the libertarian candidates as well, because I feel like these parties just use these people as pawns, really. Now, cannon fodder, whatever it might be. Now, I was in the New South Wales Parliament a few months ago. I was speaking to a parliamentarian in there, and they were amazed that former candidates that were under the Mark Latham learning tree or Mark Latham banner would still be part of the party still, and secondly, put their hand up to be a candidate. Because this person in Parliament said to me, if you want to put your hand up for public life, you need to be across all the issues.
That's right.
Right? Because if you go up there and say, look, I wasn't aware of that, I didn't know, people would say, well, why are you running? You need to at least have some idea of what's going on. Now, you're going to put your hand up for a party where their former leader and the current deputy president, which is Rod Roberts, two former members of One Nation, went into Parliament and spoke. It's all recorded on Hansard.
That's right.
About the internal dealings of what's happening with the party.
That's
and
right.
you still want to put yourself up for election representing that party and say that you didn't know anything about it? You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't. So, I mean,
obviously his conscience was clear. That's what I'm trying to say. He thinks, obviously he thought it was okay. Well, why did he run?
And at the same time, your leader's nowhere to be seen.
That's right. I know.
So why like I can understand why people want to represent their communities and their families, and One Nation is a vehicle to do that, right? I've been down that path myself. But what is there? I feel Steve Bush probably would have been better served running as an independent.
But there are a couple of things I can't say publicly. But he's conscious. He had discussions with a few people, and he thought, okay, that's what I feel about, and I'll still run for the party.
Tony says roadkill.
Brutal.
Tony says, do we want a passionate representative or someone who looks good in photos? No, Tony, you're missing the point. It's got nothing to do with looking good in a photo. It's showing that you are a good representative of the community because you take it seriously. You want to show a certain type of professionalism. And this is what Adam Zara and I always talk about. We're just working class people. I work in construction. Adam is, a tradie. He's got his own small business. We're not walking around the streets in nice shirts and blazers and all that sort of stuff. But when we put ourselves up as candidates, we wear the tie. What we're trying to project to the electorate is we take this seriously, right? Yeah. That's what you're trying to show. So if you want to represent your community, you have to show them that you take it seriously. Imagine Donald Trump walking out on stage wearing shorts and a singlet. People would go, this guy's...
Well, there's a couple of candidates in Hornsby, they were dressed very casually.
Yeah, see, I don't...
And they got 3 or 4%, but the ones, I think you're a bit harsh on libertarians. They're still working at it and stuff like that.
Nah, I think it's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. You can't even organise a professional photo. It's unforgivable. I mean, the other two candidates could. Rob Cribb did it, and so did Doug Rennie. Why can't this Hendricks bloke do it?
Look, I take your point about do's and don'ts, but at the same time, I don't think that it's as critical as you do. I mean, I do take your point, but it's like, for me, that's not.
Here's the thing, right?
It's not even.
You're meant to appeal to the whole electorate. Some people are going to look at it and go, "He's unprofessional. I'm not voting for him." Someone like you might look at it and say, "It's not a big deal. I could care less." You need to appeal to everyone. Now, so if he'd put himself up as professional, you would have gone, "Well, yeah, good." It wouldn't have swayed you at all. Whereas someone like me would have said, "Yeah, good. Now I can consider him." See the point? So you wouldn't have cared either way, whereas I would have.
Yeah.
So you're eliminating a voter, and I don't know how much percentage of the electorate will think the way that I do, but there's a certain percentage that do. You've lost them straight away.
I'm not even going to answer that, but there is a proportion. It's roughly in line with any round types. It's probably about 10%.
there's another. I did.
Always in the minority.
I did a.
We're all in the minority.
That's what
on
makes
that.
me special.
I worked for a candidate in the local council election, and you know what he said to me the couple of days prior. This is what I want you to do, Sam. You know what he said to me?
Mm.
I want you to shave and be clean.
Yeah. See,
that's what he said to me.
Mm.
He said, have a shave every second day, third day. I don't want a 3-day growth of your grey hairs and stuff like that. He said, I want you presenting because you're going to be there.
See, I don't,
because you're not representing me, myself. I'm representing him.
See, I don't normally shave because my wife kills me if she can't stand it. Right? She almost cries when I shave. When I'm a candidate, you shave. Yeah, you damn well shave.
It's a good point, and maybe. And where we live in Sydney, that maybe that it's a bit more cordial that way. And
Tony says even the Greens take their piercings out and dye the purple out. I don't know. Look at some of the Queensland.
No way. Yeah. No way. There's plenty of piercings.
All right. Before we get, I know you want to talk about Pittwater, but let's talk about Epping first because I think Epping's pretty much clear cut. There's not too much to talk about with Epping.
56%.
Clear result. Liberal Party again, well ahead. As again, no Labor running. The Liberal almost got 70% two-party preferred. The other challenger was the Greens. There's two independents there, both Chinese independents.
But one of the independents, I don't know which one. He's a very, very popular person on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't know which one. I think he got 10%.
Okay.
I was told that he's a YouTuber, and within the Chinese people around Epping and Carlingford. He was he's a very popular bloke.
Now, the Libertarians ran last with Rob Cribb. Now, I think they were almost expecting that, so it wasn't a huge deal. But why are the Libertarians running in these elections?
I have no idea. I think that it's to wave the flag and to get people aware that there is a Libertarian Party.
So just build the profile, which I
agree with that. That's exactly what you do. Yeah.
I think there's nothing more complicated or any more motive than that.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's a newer party, a new name. So I've got to sell themselves.
Build the brand.
Build the brand.
Okay.
And it's got brand. Well, it'll get recognition because Labor aren't running, so that you get yourself more publicity.
I mean, that's why I'm on the ground. It's to represent the party to the people.
That's right.
And there aren't that many opportunities.
That's exactly right.
And so you take whatever's going. I mean, it would be nice if we could have had more volunteers.
You've just answered that's the main problem. That's the main problem. Libertarians at the moment haven't got a ground game.
Dilma says if your dad doesn't have a beard, you've got two mums. Just bring. I mean, let's get it. Let's get him that some stand-up gigs.
Yeah, the comedy store at Petersham.
Yeah, well, that is open mic nights. We'll get you down there, mate. We'll support you. Okay,
the domain.
It's funny you both shave for campaigns, and I grow a beard.
Yeah, I might, but following JD Vance, I might grow in the beard as well. Maybe I'll do the campaign beard as because I think he's someone to model yourself on.
I agree. I mean, people do treat you differently when you have a beard. There's no question about that.
Interesting. All right. Pittwater, I guess this is the most interesting out of all the electorates.
That's right.
Now, this was a Liberal seat. It was vacated by Rory Munn, who's been charged with child sex offences, not convicted yet, which I guess
allegedly.
It's alleged. So I guess we can't make too many assumptions, but I'm sure some people in the electorate have made those assumptions. And I think that was a factor.
Well, you're on the ground. What did you think it was on the ground? What did you think?
All I saw on the ground was there was some young boys driving around in the car with the bullhorns, saying you're all pedophiles, blah blah blah. Right. And I'd heard from some other volunteers that had received similar comments.
Yeah,
but I didn't notice anything.
Do you think it came from the teals?
No, I don't know. You never know with the teals. They play every trick in the book.
Yeah, they rough it. They're ruthless.
I will tell you this. I had an interesting conversation with one of the teals. I wasn't trying to argue with him. I was more just trying to understand him because I don't understand the teals. Why do they get this support? And as you can see with the results, Jackie Scrooby, who I think looks very ill. Like I don't want to. I mean, she doesn't look too healthy in my view. She got 54% primary vote, which is significant. That's a that's a big result. So anyone would be happy with that result. So I don't understand why people want to vote for teals. So, and again, Labor weren't running, so maybe that contributed.
No doubt.
So I was just having a conversation
quickly when it was done strategically. When the ALP and more, I can't remember the last time the Greens never run an election in a by-election. They've always run in by-elections. So obviously it was coordinated. That's my opinion.
Tony's asking if the Libertarians had got 16 seats in council. No, it was more like 10, right?
10. It got down to 10.
Yeah, they were promised.
They got bombed out badly in preferences.
So he was telling me, oh, you know, we're running this campaign on a smell of an oily rag. Like, come on, mate. I said, look at all the teal signs everywhere and the libertarian signs, and you're trying to tell me that, you know, you guys are having it rough. Like, come on, mate. Like, that didn't work with me. But he was saying we're all local people that were supporting the local candidate. Well, here's the other thing. She lives in Bondi. She didn't live in the area. She had an investment property, I think, that the mum owned or something or other. I mean, I don't know the full circumstances, but that was the word on the booth. And the other thing was she wasn't a lawyer as well, because she hadn't been registered or something along those lines.
Right.
Again, word on the booth. I don't know that I don't have that verified. So I said, okay, well, if you really are a Pittwater local, how's cost of living going for you guys? We don't care about cost of living here in Pittwater. We only care about climate change. That's the feeling. That's the mentality of these people. Cost of living is not even
in the ballpark.
Not even in the ballpark. They could care less. They only want to talk about cost of living.
Yep.
So this is, I mean,
I only want to talk about climate change.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to talk about climate.
So basically, there's been no movement since 2022 in that part of the world.
Well, this is what I want to challenge you about, because you're saying that the teals are going to lose some shine. Well, if you look at the Pittwater result and maybe the ACT result, they look like they're going pretty well.
Well, this is going to be an absorbing question, okay? But my view of it is that there are plenty of teals, and they used to vote Labor or the Greens or whatever. And there is a small amount of Liberals, probably about 20% of the teal vote, which is only a few percent, that shifted over from the Liberals. And the reason they shifted over from the Liberals was because they hated Morrison or they hated their local member, like I did. And they'll go back to somewhere else and give the Liberals their final preference.
Because that seat in federal is McKellar, and a bit of redistribution will come up more towards French's Forest and up this way, up in the Killarney Heights. And
those are the areas, Sam, which have been in Warringah. So they've had 2 terms of idiots like Stegel. And
will as I just said before, the further west you go from the coast, is cost of living more prominent? Is that why the Liberal Party vote went back to Liberal Party in Hornsby and Epping?
Well, here's some, to be critical of the Liberal Party, here's some observations. Firstly, we talked about Rory Martin and the allegations there. That's not something that's easy to defend.
That's right.
You can't defend it. I'm surprised it didn't come up even more. The other thing is that
let's clarify that it's impossible to defend the poor vetting on the part of the Liberal Party. Forget him and whatever he might have done. The vetting on the part of the Liberal Party was obviously completely inadequate.
Well, we don't know the true circumstances.
I was told by a Liberal person in Hornsby, he said that the allegations only came up after he got elected.
Okay. All right. Well, that explains that.
Now, there's plenty of, but I was told that the allegations was reported to the police after he got written, when someone saw a photo of him.
Okay, there's 3 things. I'm thinking to myself, if you're someone in Pittwater that would probably normally vote Liberals, you might not be a member of the party or a true believer or anything like that, but you probably have voted Liberal in the past. But you're looking at this new Jackie Scrooby character, and she's a young lady and she's got a family, and you think maybe I'm torn between. First thing is the Rory Amand thing, which we've touched on. The second thing is you've just had a local government council election where the Liberals weren't running because of this big debacle, and this is a big reason why Georgia Ryburn was running in this election, because she was the Liberal Party deputy mayor that could no longer run because they completely stuffed up the nomination process. So they're two things that would make you disillusioned as a former Liberal voter. The third thing, and this is my observation, I'm going to the booth, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I better know what the policies are, because I'm used to having like Mark Latham booklets, you know. That's like one extreme. The other extreme was they had nothing.
That's right.
There was, and even on the how to vote cards, there was something about finishing Monavale Road, which was the same policy as the teals. So there's no point of differentiation. I can't even talk.
I'm a school dropout.
You know what we mean. No point of difference. No point of difference there. And there's a couple of platitudes. Where are the clear policies? And the Liberal Party are capable of good, clear policies that people can believe in and get behind. If you want to win votes, you got to give people something to believe in.
That's right. And
why are they voting for you? Are they just voting for the brand, or are they voting for?
But there you have it. They don't believe in themselves. They don't think they can win. That's why they lost Pittwater.
I think
I stand for nothing.
I do,
and that's why they're doing everything they can to lose the federal.
Well, this is why
year.
It's critical, and there are people in the party that are pushing for this. I came from a meeting just recently about this. They are desperate for good candidates, specifically in these teal electorates and the coastal electorates. They think they can win.
Yeah.
They keep walking past good candidates and selecting donkeys.
The problem is, because they're fighting with each other, and the New South Wales branch has been taken over federally.
Yeah,
they're a mess. They don't. There's no coordination. It looks like they're an absolute rabble.
They're a rabble.
They're fighting between themselves. You know, where do they stand? They just, and Speakman, he's an empty man. Or what does he stand for?
Nothing.
I'd be surprised if he's the opposition leader in 27.
Here's Tony's view. Parties which secretly subscribe to global governments don't require policies. I think you still need policy. You definitely. I mean, if you want to win elections, you need policy.
Some factions of the Liberal Party believe, but some faction believes in that part of it.
Now, I agree with Tony. She's almost right, because she's saying parties that subscribe to something else are gonna win in spite of themselves, because they don't have to believe in anything. They're just giving it a go regardless. And yeah, she's almost right. I mean, that's what I see the Liberal Party doing.
It's just they stand for nothing, especially in New South Wales. They're just wishy-washy.
And Victoria.
Okay, what about
this? Queensland? They've done their best to lose an election. They should have won cold.
Well, they had a small target policy.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, they got to stand for something in that. Yeah. Well, I think everyone's got scared what Shorten did in 19.
Doesn't matter.
They haven't thought that deeply about it. So that's just you're making this assumption that they've actually thought deeply about it. They haven't.
Well, hang on. I think there's a clear distinction between New South Wales Labor under Mark Speakman and federal. Sorry, not Labor. I'm having a shocker today. But New South Wales Liberal under Mark Speakman and federal Liberal under Peter Dutton. Now, Peter Dutton does have policies that people can believe in. He opposed the Voice. And he's pushing this nuclear policy. There's more details coming out, and we'll talk about that a bit later because there's some big developments there. Yeah. There's some housing policy that he just released. I feel like he does have a vision. He does have a plan. He does have goals and policies and things in mind that he is going to roll out. We'll see that closer to the election. I do feel like people can get behind him and support him. The big question is he needs to win these teal electorates. And that's the teals are what's stopping him from getting into government. And you can't run away from the teals. You can't say, well, we're going to go win Western Sydney instead. No, you need to win Western Sydney, but you also need to win back some of the teals. You might not have to win all of them.
There's a pathway without winning off teals.
I don't care. You still need to get. I mean, these teals. I mean,
You can win.
Personally, they're not. But their policies are dangerous. The policies are destroying this country environmentally, our agricultural land, but destroying our economy as well.
I don't disagree with you one iota. Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. But I'm talking about the Liberal Party. This might sound silly. The worldwide trend in Western worlds that the richer areas you are in, they vote more left wing.
Yeah.
Look what's happening in America. You'll find Trump voters are in working class areas. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised with some states. There's a chance to come back to American politics. There's a chance that Trump might win West Virginia.
Yeah,
it could be. They've been campaigning before Joe Biden. They were campaigning in Virginia, 100 miles from DC. You know,
Can you believe we've got over an hour already?
Oh God, we haven't started.
We haven't started. All right, let's finish up on the by-elections. I want to ask you one question.
Let's go back to the Teal electorates. I think the Teals have already lost both the Melbourne seats because of the Jewish vote. They've all signed that stupid petition for the ceasefire. Allegra will be safe, but I still think that McKellar will fall to the Liberals. I think there'll be a move back. That
didn't happen in Pittwater, mate.
Yeah, and that's the half electorate.
I understand that, but it's like,
well, that means you're going to get 55, 60% anything south of that. That's a big call, mate.
In the past.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Okay, just to finish up, I'm going to grill you again, Richard. So Pittwater, so Labor and the Greens got out of the way of the Teal.
That's
so
right.
there's no preference splitting, but the Libertarian had a shot. Doug Rennie, good man. I know him behind the scenes. He got 4%. Didn't come into play this time, but had the situation in being close. And in 2023, I think it came down to 600 votes between the Teal and the Liberal. What were the Libertarians thinking by running?
Again, we were flying a flag.
But you could have lost it for the Liberal Party.
Oh, I don't think so, because our preferences go directly back to them.
Not all of them.
In a state seat with optional preferential voting,
They could have exhausted. This is one of my points. Optional preferential voting. They could have just put a one, walked away.
This is the theory now.
They can do that anyway.
This is the theory now of try and win seats under the optional preferential voting. You don't have a Melbourne Cup field.
Yeah.
This theory worked. It forced people to vote to one or two options.
Yeah.
And on the Liberal side, they got 53% of the vote. So it doesn't matter the Libertarian ran or not. When they got 53% of the vote in a three-horse race, not going to lose.
Now, Tony, may I get you guys your comments about this one? She says Allegra is distancing herself from Simon, so as in, I'm assuming Simon Holmes a court.
Yeah.
Climate 200.
Allegra obviously knows that saying, if you lie with dogs, you end up with fleas. So.
Well, we'll see where the funding comes from, won't we? That'll be the true tell. Okay, let's move on from New South Wales. We touched briefly on ACT. I don't think there's too much to talk about there. The next big one's Queensland.
Yeah,
now,
tomorrow.
Yes, it is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. Well, anything that you want to talk about?
Poll came out last night from nswpol. It's gone to 53-47.
So Libs
are in front, 53-47.
So it's not going to be a huge landslide that people.
What I've read from people, some analysis people, the primary vote of the Liberal Party is still at 42. So that will hold them in good stead.
Tony says Labor will win. Are you talking about federally or Queensland?
I assume she's talking about Queensland. What they're saying is that Libs think they can fortify the southeast in their electorates in Brisbane, but I think they'll get smashed everywhere else.
Nick says Stevie Giggles is copying it on X. I don't know what that means.
But I still think outside the southeast, there might be some safe Labor seats that could go real bang. This could be. There'll be some seats that you will be very surprised. I've read some stuff down in some of that hardcore Labor seats where Chalmers' seat is in the southeast there of
Logan
around there. They say there could be a real revolt against Labor in those areas. Look at Ipswich West in the by-election. You know, that's hardcore Labor.
Oh, I
That
think
was at 20.
Nick's talking about the leader, Stephen Miles, is copying it on X.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah. Well, so he should probably. He just looks like a fish out of water.
This could go. There'll be a lot of there'll be some swings that you don't expect, and some swings that they thought, oh well, this is gone. And
I want to talk about.
I'll give you warnings. Don't be surprised. I've read something today that Ashby's a fair chance of winning Keppel.
Oh, please don't tell me that.
I
hope he crashes. I hope the electorate of Keppel wake up to that guy bloke and don't. I can't tell people who to vote for. But
yeah. But I'm just saying, I read something by a Labor operative saying that he thinks he's won. I thought, although this bloke tends to speak a bit loud in that way, but he thinks that Ashby's won. So I find that hard to believe, to be truthful.
I'll just be happy when it's over. We can concentrate back on the national stuff.
Or they'll go into Christmas and people forget about till February.
Yeah.
Let's try. I'm going to try and find the situation for Keppel
In the 2020 election.
Yeah, is it 2020?
Yeah.
But before we get there, maybe talk about Gympie. I'd like to see Katie McCallum do well, even though she's in the wrong party, as I said before.
Has she been campaigning hard?
Oh, she always goes hard, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I haven't looked at Gympie. What's the margins there?
Why is this not coming up? The results are not coming up for some reason.
Go ABC 2020 Queensland election.
There we go. So this is Keppel. So this is the James Ashby situation, who's the One Nation candidate in the current election. This is the former results. So formerly, One Nation got 15.7%. So the Labor Party got 46%. I don't know how you go from 15% to.
Yeah, but what was it? But in 2016, the One Nation candidate. One Nation got 26% of the vote in 2016.
26?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even with 26, you're not going to go to 46.
Well, the point I'm trying to say, they think if he finishes in front of the Liberal Party person, and if the Labor Party vote goes from 45 to 35, then it's game on.
So you think you win on preferences?
Yeah, that's the only way.
So you don't have to win. You have to get ahead of the Liberal, the LDP. So I got 29.6 at last election.
And this is where
to come from third. You've got to get kind of number two.
Yeah,
and
this is where
preference.
our mate. This is the problem. Our mate from the Family First Party,
Lyle Shelton.
He's got a candidate there, so he'll disrupt the vote.
Yeah.
We'll see.
If you're talking small, this is what I said. What happened in Pittwater? What the Libs and Greens do?
What happens to One Nation if James Ashby wins?
I wouldn't know.
Maybe he'll be distracted by his new duties.
I don't know about that. Okay, let's look at Gympie. So this is where Katie McCallum, former guest on the show. So One Nation got 12% last time. So I heard through the grapevine that she's hoping for 30%. Again, I don't see it happening. I love Katie, but to go from 12% to 30%,
yeah, but it's a
would be incredible.
What the Liberals poll?
42%,
and the tide's coming. The tide's coming in.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be tough.
Labor,
but this seat was formerly won by One Nation in 2001, and that was a completely different time.
That was phenomenal at the time. Yeah, that was a revolution.
Also, Labor are preferencing the Liberals.
Oh, but yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So it makes it a lot more challenging.
That's right. That for her to win, that Liberal Party vote's got to go from once again 42 to 35.
Nick says there is no way Giggles will win. There will be a swing to the independents.
There isn't a real lot of independents running.
There's no teal presence up there, is there?
There's one. She's an existing member on the Sunshine Coast. Girl called Sandy Bolton.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's a member for Noosa, I think it is.
All right. So I think we can't really talk too much about Queensland as yet.
Yeah.
We'll probably next time discuss Queensland a little bit in depth once we know the results.
Do we have to?
You don't have to be here. I know you want to talk about this. You will want to talk about this, Richard. This was in the Parliament in the last few days. We had King Charles here representing the Crown, and King Charles was confronted with some commotion, and this was it.
You committed genocide against our people. Give us our land back. Give us what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies. Our people, you destroyed our land. Give us a treaty. We want a treaty in this country. You are a genocide. This is not your land.
Same personality as Kamala Harris. Sexual type 8.
That makes you have uncontrollable outbursts?
No, she just likes being the center of attention.
That was coordinated.
And, being the most important person in the room.
Tony says, let's actually explore the question, Stephen. What will become of Pauline Hanson's One Nation if Ashby wins?
The agent provocateur.
Nick says, and this goes back to Lidia Thorpe, this was planned theatre in the biggest theatre in Australia.
Yeah. No arguments.
Well,
and then Tony said, "Oh God, you boys are going to love this." Tony says, "I only tune in if both Sam and Richard are present. That is all." Well, Tony, you're missing some very good podcasts lately. I did some great podcasts with Victor DL, especially. Well, the one on the greens, you'd love that one. I think Tony told me she watched that one. She loved it. Lidia Thorpe. Who's telling her to do this stuff? Is she doing it on her own? Is she being?
She's doing it on her own.
No, the people behind her and stuff.
Like who?
Activists, the Aboriginal activist class, people behind it. I think she's funded by the CFMEU. That's what I was told.
Okay.
We don't know.
Just little things. Yeah, but I'm just saying. She's got to make herself presence. She got
this was her response. Now, people have called. I think Peter Dutton has called for her to resign, and under the Westminster system, you should resign if you're disrupting or acting this way. I mean, this is not just an isolated incident. She's done plenty of things like this.
But she hasn't done that within the Senate.
She's done some pretty crazy stuff when she'd be hollering and chanting in the Senate as well.
Yeah. She's just there to be about herself.
But in response to,
do you think in what's happened in New South Wales and people from Senate, do you think there should it has to be a constitutional change where if you've left the party, you must leave the Senate, must leave the chamber for good and replace?
No, because you don't vote for the party, you vote for the candidate.
Yeah.
So people are saying, look, when you went into the Parliament, you swore allegiance to the Crown.
Yeah.
So you should always show allegiance to the Crown, and because you haven't shown that allegiance with this outburst, then you should resign. Well, this was Lidia Thorpe's response.
To the Queen's hairs, if you listen close enough, it wasn't her heirs, it was her hairs that I was giving my allegiance to, and now that they're no longer here, I don't know where that stands. But
right. So what's the significance
I'm not giving
of that?
Up my job. I'm not resigning.
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law.
She's not the full quid, right?
She's enjoying the ride.
Yeah. She's just massively
it's just under 4 years to go, and she's going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
What they should do in the future with her, don't invite her to these functions.
Yeah.
That's a big question. And why did they have her right smack bang in the centre? Why didn't they have her up the back somewhere?
Because she would have got out and ran it down there and get publicity. So it didn't matter. You just got to tell her you're not invited, and she might, if she gate crashes, then you try and arrest her.
Yeah. You make an agreement with everyone in the house that she's not to be invited or tolerated at any official function.
Problem is they need her vote too.
Well,
that's the problem. They're going. The government needs her vote.
What I was interested with was what would be the response of people that supported her, because obviously there are people out there. So obviously we look at that and we look at her and say, look, you're not the full quid. We can't take you seriously. If you're going to go in there and have outbursts like that, you're not going to win any credibility with anyone, even if they may support some of the things that you're saying. They're just going to roll their eyes and say you're a nut job.
I don't know why you're even asking this. She was voted in by Greens voters.
That's right.
Yeah,
Greens
voters voted her in.
Well, this is something that Lidia Thorpe retweeted, so obviously she's in support of these comments.
The story that we're hearing is how disrespectful and disruptive she was. Despite all the mainstream media coverage across the country, there are so many black fellas that are proud of what she did, that are in awe of her courage and strength, because she is someone who routinely experiences the racialised and gendered violence as a sovereign Aboriginal.
Go on, Richard.
That's just actually the real radical part of the office. That's the university activists and all that, who were just they're basically, she's supported by the anarchists, basically.
It's like if you support any kind of extremist.
Yeah.
And her behaviour was borderline violent. It wasn't peaceful.
What the hell's going on with you people? Kilda Saint says, best show, guys, especially with Richard and Sam. What the hell is going on?
We're getting really
I have high quality guests and experts. Paul Vallejo, he's a former NASA engineer. Victor Diel is fantastic. I had Gigi Foster on recently. I had former members of Parliament in Rick Collis. I had current members of Parliament with Mark Benaziac and all these fabulous, fantastic people. And people want to listen to you too?
Well, it's because I think we talk for the common people. We talk about numbers and local issues. And I think local issues attract at the moment. That's all.
Kilda Saint says yes, but they are boring. Thanks, mate.
Good. I've been called worse.
No, not you. The other guest.
All right, fair enough.
Oh, don't tell them that. They'll want to come on permanently now.
Oh no, we make it. We'll hit when we're ready. I don't think every week would get boring after a while.
But do you think all of this diminishes the plight of the Aboriginal people?
Totally.
Yeah.
Because it invites ridicule.
Yeah.
It invites dismissal. She's actually eroding the goodwill that Australian people have towards everyone, including the Aborigines.
I went to the bush.
We are all one people.
I went to the bush 2 weeks ago, and there was an incident there where I don't know if I should say this or not.
We'll go on, say it.
You only need. I don't know why you did. You only need us to say, "Go on, Sam," and he spills his guts. I've seen it before. Like this guy spills his guts over anything. Like, I mean, honestly,
7 hours drive, in a country town of only a couple of thousand people. This Aboriginal bloke broke into a house and got caught and got bashed, and there was no risk. And I felt sorry for him and stuff like that. And he got up 2 hours later as if nothing is wrong, and he got black and blue everywhere. Yeah.
And what's the point of this story?
All I'm saying is that these people that Lidia Thorpe don't represent those sort of people.
Lydia Thorpe doesn't
represent those sort of people.
No, she represents
the Redfern and Fitzroy of this country.
A privileged urban elite.
Within 5-10 kilometres of each CBD in Australia.
Yeah. So,
I probably said that wrong. I said, well, no, the bloke got bashed. And does that Lidia Thorpe support these sort of people?
No. She
don't give a toss about them.
Tony says there were no Aboriginal people on the yes booths in my area, but there were about 6 on the no booths.
Right.
Likewise.
Well, yeah, I saw similar things. Look, we talked about this before when we were talking about the Liberal Party not putting out their, policies. I mean, if Lidia Thorpe is going to go in there and say, "You're not my king, and this is stolen land, and give us our land back," but what's your solution? Like
that's the one thing we agree on. Charlie has turned me into a Republican.
Kevin Lockray's turned me into a Republican.
Has he?
Yeah, because if you read the Constitution, there's nothing about. Well, he's saying there's no true separation of powers between the executive and the legislature. And if you read Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is about the executive, there's no mention of the Prime Minister. There's no mention of anyone in Parliament. The Governor General is meant to appoint his council of or cabinet, and he could. There's nothing in there that says he should select someone from the Parliament. So he could potentially
answer this.
Have Peter Cosgrove as Defence Minister if
answer
he wanted
this question.
to. Or she, it's a she now.
If answer this question, do you think Australia will become a republic by 2035?
Well, I've always been a Republican. I've never seen a model that I've supported. That's the only thing.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the problem. There's no model that's and the people that represent the referendum, the republic are what I think are the arse end of the country.
And this is a point that John Ruddick made.
Can I just answer that? At the moment, if we became a republic, it would be like some idiot new ager changing the spelling of their name, hoping that it would make them a different person. I'm not in favour of us becoming a republic until we can do meaningful constitutional change.
I agree.
It's like, and until then, until people can actually talk with some substance,
I agree with you.
veracity,
I agree with you.
I'm not interested in even talking about it.
Well,
it's like get it together and come up with a real.
I won't support a republic when people like Turnbull, Fitzsimons, and Foster are involved. I said over my dead body.
Well, this is why
I'm right there with you.
I want to join the Australian Republic movement to just more hear what they're saying, hear what they're proposing. I mean, are they just full of nut jobs and lefties?
Yes, they are.
Well, then we need to get in there and reform it. We need to take control of that.
Tell them to just shut up and go away until they've got something decent to say.
That's right.
Just shut up and go away.
They've had 30 years to think about this.
What a bunch of tossers.
That's right. They're
wankers.
They're disgusking people.
Yeah. They're all in there.
Yeah.
So they can grandstand and prove how
they're
important
well-off people who are looking for first world issues.
Tell them to just let go of it and move on.
Here's a point that John Ruddick makes, and I think it's a valid point. I made this point to Kevin Lockray, and he completely lambasted. He thought it was ridiculous. But
I agree.
Hang on, let me finish.
Just wait a tick. I agree with what John's. I've seen John's speech.
The audience doesn't know what John's view is because you haven't let me say it yet.
We'll play it now.
I don't have it. I have to say it. Can I let the audience know what his view is? Defending the monarchy, defending the crown. He says that you're born.
I haven't swore today.
You're born into that position. So we know what the lineage.
I'm a probation.
Shut up. We know what the lineage is, right? So we know that after Queen Elizabeth dies, then it's King Charles, and we know that when King Charles dies, then it becomes William. It's locked in. There's no dispute. Whereas if you have a president that's elected, you're introducing doubt, you're introducing contention, just like we're seeing in America, where they're saying this election's rigged, that election's rigged. You know, who is this person a good candidate? Blah blah blah. At least with the monarchy, you know what you're getting, whether it's good or bad. You know that Charles is going to be king. After Charles, you're going to get William. Blah blah blah. The only thing that Ruddick said about that, he said, well, if we're not happy with the British being the monarchy, then we should select our own Australian monarchy. And I said to him, do we even need a monarchy? Can't you just have the crown as a symbol and then elect the Governor General? He said, no, it's not going to work quite as well. So that's his point. I think it's a good point. I don't know if I completely agree. I see some good in it.
This is where I agree with Ruddick.
I'm going to send that to Ruddick.
You can. Big picture issues, Ruddick is very good at, but he's not just about some pothole, And this sort of stuff, he's very, very good at this stuff.
I have a comment to make, and it's like
that's more polite, than just yelling over me.
I have a comment to make, and that is that I would have infinitely preferred Anne to be the current monarch rather than Charles.
Who?
Anne.
Princess Anne.
Princess Anne.
Yeah, well, why
Princess
not? Ruddick did say that.
I mean, it's like we don't ordinarily have to accept the hereditary choice or the British choice. We can say, Charles, bugger off. we want Queen Anne. So you can be king of the British Empire if you like, but we want Queen Anne to be the Queen of Australia.
Why is Charles so bad? Like, why do we? I mean, apart from having,
have you heard him talk about climate change?
Yeah, I know.
He's a dickhead,
but he has no influence over the.
It's still a public voice.
Yeah, and he should shut up and talk about something important.
Well, okay. So if we were going to go to a republic, and you're saying that with Charles there, you're more in favour of the republic now, what would your model be?
I haven't even thought about it. I'm not going to go there. Sorry.
I'm
certainly not interested. I've made my view about Australia becoming a republic really clear. At the moment, what I'm concerned about is that it would be an irrelevant and without substance name change.
Every model that's come up is flawed, badly flawed. They've got to come up with a better policy than that.
Because the people coming up with those ideas are idiots.
No, hang on. And you need to go back. All these people saying that Sam and Richard are the greatest guests. You need to go watch the one I did with Kevin Lockray recently.
I watched that.
And he's not boring, right?
I don't think so.
If you read our constitution currently, the provisions are already there for us to elect the Governor General and for the Governor General to appoint people to the executive. So no longer would you have the Prime Minister and his ministers of the government part of the executive. You'd have a Governor General that would then select. Same thing as the American system. So if you look at the current system, Donald Trump wins, he's going to have Elon Musk there. He's going to have Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr., J.D. Vance, Jordan Peterson. I was watching it on the way and made a video today about saying, hey, that's the X-Men of a cabinet that you could ever have. It's fantastic. Yeah. We could have a very similar thing here in Australia. As I said before, if you were the Governor General, you would say, I need a Minister for Defence. Instead of having Richard Marles that has no experience at all running defence, you'd have Peter Cosgrove. Or, and this is a point that Barnaby Joyce actually made to me. He said, a lot of these people coming into Parliament, they've never run anything. They're either political staffers or they're unionists or they've just come out of uni.
Teachers.
They've never run a business. They've never built anything themselves or run anything. Suddenly they become a minister and they're in charge of the department with over 1,000 staff. And these bureaucrats that are getting paid $600,000 a year or more, just having it over on them. Yeah. And they don't know what the hell they're doing. So the current model doesn't work because you can't have politicians running the executive. You have to have experts in that field. So if you want a minister for health, you need to have someone that's been working in health. And please don't put Kerry Chan in there or someone like that.
No,
but someone capable.
This is where the model of the come back to Legislative Council in New South Wales pre-1979. You were invited on the Legislative Council and you had to specialise in something.
I don't know about that. I think you had to be a landowner and
you had to
be rich or something like that.
You had to specialise in certain areas. I know a bloke got in 100 years ago. He specialised in coal. A bloke called Gordon Black, and he specialised in the coal industry. And they invited him. He was on there for about 30 years.
Couple of comments. Dilma says, "I just want a leader, not a ruler." Nick says there is a lot of grubby lawyers in there as well. And Pauline says there are rules to keep us in line and obviously not enough for politicians, Payman, Lydia, etc. It has now come back to bite them.
Yep.
Yeah, so any final comments of maybe the Republican thing is something that we can look into a little bit deeper?
Can we quickly talk about the Greens?
Yeah.
I've noticed that Hornsby during the week of pre-polling, and it might sound so. I've done a bit of pre-polling. I've never hear anyone abuse the Greens. I heard about a dozen people going up to them and pointed a finger at them and abused them about some of their policies.
I'm going to play you this. I've got this lined up. We might as well jump into it now. This is from Max Chandler Mather.
Yep.
He is the member for
Griffith.
Griffith.
in Brisbane.
In Brisbane. Let's have a look at old Max.
Quick, put 90 seconds on the clock, because this time I reckon I can convince you this state election, we could take a big step towards winning real transformational change before the timer hits 0. Ready? Go. Do you want to know what Labor and the Liberals' biggest asset is? Low expectations. The political establishment's power comes in part from crushing your hope. They use fear to shrink the horizon of what is considered possible in politics. But here's the deal. Everything the Greens are fighting for at a state and federal level, capping rent increases, bringing dental and mental health into Medicare, scrapping student debt, capping grocery prices, establishing a public bank, has been done before and done around the world. The reality is Labor and the Liberals have chosen their corporate donors over everyday people. The biggest barrier is political. So we need to build a political movement big and powerful enough to win that change. That takes time. And the question is, how does this Queensland state election and winning Greens MPs take us closer to building that movement? Well, 1, it expands our voice in Parliament to fight for that change. 2, it expands our capacity and resources to recruit new volunteers and run new community support and meal programs. When we won my seat of Griffith, we ran a housing campaign that won $3 billion for social housing, and we've now served over 50,000 free school breakfasts and community dinners. Imagine what we could do with 6 Greens MPs in state parliament. But perhaps most importantly, winning gives people hope that a better world is possible. And the more hope there is in politics, the more people are willing to fight for. How'd I go?
Now, the significance of playing that is I want to read you some of the comments from that, which I found very amusing. First, I guess, before we get to the comments, do you have any comments on the actual video itself, Richard?
Sure. Go.
Just spin from the Greens. Well, no. Big picture.
Do you think he spoke well?
I think he did a professional presentation of someone that believes that lying through his teeth serves a greater and higher purpose, and hypocrisy, of course, is irrelevant. You know.
Okay,
he is the sort of picture perfect Greens candidate.
All right, let's see if he got any support. I can't say this one. F the Greens. Look at the clown show you've turned our parliament into. That's one comment. Next one. Why are you so floppy? You look and sound like a manic mess. Next one. Greens are proxy for Hamas. They are bankrupt Aussie investors and hand this country to them. I mean, the comments just go on and on. Unhinged lunatic, Mad Max at it again, yapping away BS.
Yeah.
Possibly the worst election pledge ever. Watch this video on mute. Looks like he's high on drugs. Go away, commie. I mean, these comments just go on and on and on.
Yeah.
So you're saying that no one's attacking the Greens. Well, it's happening on social media.
Yeah, but I'm talking about face to face. It's right being a keyboard warrior. But I saw half a dozen cases last week where they went up to the Greens people and pointing finger about certain policies and things like that, and they were taken aback by it. They're not used to that sort of stuff.
I think because a lot of people on the right just want to do things quietly. They don't want that confrontation. It's not really.
Yeah.
It's not really worth it to them because they know they're not going to get through to these leftist greenies. I mean, if they can't wake up to their.
I disagree with that to a point.
Because they would report back,
and that is that I've actually done.
Oh,
it myself.
sorry. Tony just said, "How do I phone in?" I'm getting carried away with these two here. I haven't put the link in the chat yet, so give me a second. I will put the StreamYard link in the chat if anyone wants to call in and have their say. It's very, very important to call in and have your say. So give me a second. I got completely sidetracked there, but we would like to hear your comments if you do want to call in. As I said before, you can do it on the phone. You can do it on your laptop. But all you need to do is click the StreamYard link, and someone, as I said before, someone was asking me how to do it. I thought it was pretty clear, but for people that don't know, I'm putting it in the chat now. Just if it doesn't come up with the clickable, just copy it from the HTTPS into your browser, and you should go through without a problem. But yeah, do call in. We do want to hear some comments, as I said. At the beginning, we're happy to go a little bit longer today because there is a lot to talk about. So please call in, hit that StreamYard link, especially Tony. We would like to hear from you. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Rumble, that link should be in the chat right now. Were one of you fine gentlemen speaking? Did I overtalk you somehow?
No, that's right. Talking about the Greens and
I was speaking. I was saying, there's often a point in sort of taking on someone and really rattling their cage, and I've actually done that with a couple of Greens.
Yeah.
But I can't do it when I'm wearing a libertarian shirt, so I've usually got to.
Why not?
Sneak
Why not?
around.
Why not?
It's much more complicated.
One thing they would do is they would report back to head office saying, I copped a bit of abuse at this booth.
Mm.
And I said, oh, okay, well, if that's happened here and it's happened there and it's happened here, so gee, and what are they talking about? They're talking about this, and that. So I say, okay, fair enough. And so there's a bit of pushback that it would be reported.
Do you want to talk about nuclear now?
For example, but mate, honest quickly, but if I got abused 5 or 6 times, I would tell my candidate or someone that I'm supporting, they're saying this, and that.
Mm. Yeah.
If you're being objective about it to your candidate, they're saying about this. What happened 2 years ago? Well, okay. Well, what do you want me to say when that happens again?
Mm.
All right. So the big thing to talk about, and this goes back to when I was on the Pittwater the booth, and I was talking to the teal, and he was saying, you guys in the Liberal Party should be concerned about Peter Dutton. He's holding you guys back federally. New South Wales part of the Liberal Party is way better, and it was especially when Matt Keane was in there. It was fantastic. This nuclear policy isn't going to work. Didn't you watch the Four Corners report recently about nuclear energy? And I said to him, he said it's not going to work here in Australia. And I said, well, how come it's working in so many places overseas?
Oh, they're all stupid.
He said, other countries have nuclear energy, but it's not producing that much power. And I said, well, what about France? 70% of their power comes from nuclear energy. He said, I've never heard that before. I'm like, mate, you better go look that up. And he said he would.
Yeah.
Good on the bloke.
Yeah.
But they're not even aware that 70% of nuclear power in France comes from nuclear, and even the Germans take some of that.
They go all around Europe because they know that's the backup. At least they know it works.
Yeah. Now, recently, in the last week or two, or a little bit more, some of the big corporations are now jumping on the bandwagon as well. First, it was Bill Gates, and he's got 3 Mile Island up and running again, or they're planning to get it up and running again to feed the data center for Microsoft and the AI. Now, Google and Amazon are also going down the small modular reactor path to power their AI, because AI is the next big thing. It's going to take a lot of power, going to take a lot of energy. So
I saw estimates of 10 times the generated power of Australia would be needed.
Yeah, yeah.
So 29 gigawatts times 10.
They're data centers for Telstra,
and this goes against one of the big claims of the teals. They say, well, if nuclear was so great, then the private sector would get behind it, just like they're getting behind renewables. Well, hey, the private sector's starting to get behind nuclear. What are you going to say now?
No, there's a rush. They're not getting behind it. There's a rush to grab what you can for what you might need.
I read some reports in the AFR. Saying that some of the fund managers now in America saying, we've had enough of renewables. Let's get some. We want nuclear or gas and stuff like that. Which is more. At least it works,
Well,
Tony says can't phone in. It's not near laptop and can't download the app. You don't need to download an app, Tony. You click the link and it will happen. It's web based. There's no app, so it's very, very easy. So just click the link and call in. But let's play the clip of this clip, just explaining what we've just been talking about.
What I wish I knew about AI and nuclear energy a year ago. It's a game changer. Amazon and Google, 2 tech giants, are diving deep into nuclear energy to power their AI operations. Why? Because AI burns through electricity like your phone on a long trip. Traditional energy sources, not cutting it anymore. Enter small modular reactors, the superheroes of the nuclear world. They're smaller, safer, and perfect for providing steady, carbon-free power. By investing in these reactors, Amazon and Google aim to slash their carbon footprints while meeting AI's growing energy demands. Imagine reducing emissions while keeping those AIs running 24/7. So next time you think of AI, remember, it's not just about smart algorithms, but also smart energy solutions. Nuclear energy might just be the key to unlocking the future of tech. AI.
Okay, so that's the clip. Now, you guys are on probation. We've just lost Richard. I don't know where Richard's gone. You're on probation. What the hell is this? What do you think about that clip, Sam?
Oh, that's pure facts. The power is exponential in this AI data digital world.
Well, Tony says, I clicked the link and it gave me instructions to download an app. Oh my God, I should screenshot evidence. Oh, I'm sorry, Tony. Well, download the damn app then. Dilmaz says, Labor want to invest billions into quantum computing, but no plan how to power it. Good point. This is an excellent point. And look, the nuclear tidal wave is coming, whether we like it or not. And I mean, this is something the Liberal Party can win against the Teals.
And the younger, I've read some stuff. Some of the younger people are coming across to nuclear too.
Well, yeah. I mean, what I say this, once you start to scratch beneath the surface, it starts to become far more appealing. I was against nuclear energy in the beginning as well. But you know, and on the flip side, the more you scratch beneath the surface of renewables, the more it sounds horrific and horrifying and damaging and destructive.
Which it is.
It's shocking.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Which it is.
It's disgusting technology. So,
what's got to be followed up with Amazon and Google? It's got to be followed up by fund managers around the world. They're going to invest into nuclear energy. It's a bit like it happened 5 years ago and 10 years ago when they went to windmills and solar panels. Now, they've gone off that and they've gone to this now. So you must follow the money, okay? And the money must come from the global fund.
I've been saying this all along. As soon as people start to wake up that renewables don't work, they'll jump onto the nuclear bandwagon. The investors will.
That's right.
And they'll make their money again.
That's right.
Now, this is a reaction that I found. This is a reaction from a lefty lobby group. I don't know who this person is, but I thought it might be interesting just to play to hear the reaction of the other side when it comes to these big companies going down the nuclear path.
All right.
This is Doug McIntyre, the editor-in-chief at Climate Crisis 247 in New York City. Bill Gates, the sixth richest man in the United States and also the co-founder of Microsoft, has been a big proponent of clean energy for many decades. He's decided to take this beyond wind and solar. He's invested a lot of money, he says $1 billion in nuclear energy, particularly smaller reactors that are not as dangerous as the old ones, and they're also modular, which means they can be moved around. Americans soured on nuclear energy after 3 Mile Island, which was a meltdown of a big reactor in 1979. The Gates projects are much safer than that, and they're modern technology that's been developed in just the last 2 or 3 years. What this is going to allow Americans to do, if Gates is right, is move away from fossil fuels by having 3 prongs. You're going to have solar, you're going to have nuclear, and you're going to have wind. Wind and solar have been a little bit slow to develop, and they've also been difficult to finance, particularly wind, because a lot of the wind products have had problems, mostly mechanical problems, which have caused investors to shy away from them. But what Gates is doing is he said, we can start a new front here, a completely new front. And if this works, you can see the United States energy grid getting much, much greener.
One of the points there that he made that they were going to have a mix of nuclear, wind, and solar. It's not going to happen. It's going to be just nuclear. You're not going to need the wind and solar.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Why would you build these monstrosities when you got a small nuclear reactor that's generating energy 24/7, reliability, emissions-free, for what it's worth, and we don't need it. We don't need windmills and solar panels.
There's also a vast difference of generation capacity,
and it's more solid energy.
Yeah.
It's not. I read somewhere it's not as potent. Windmills and solar panels. The type of energy is It's not
it's intermittent energy
It's
and
density. I've read some stuff about density of their power.
Okay. So this is
More
one
technical
of the big
terms,
points.
yeah.
This is why Adam made those little Coke cans because that's energy density. So one little Coke can is the amount of nuclear waste that would be produced by you in your whole life. So that's so one Coke can of nuclear fuel would power your whole existence. Every time you flick the light, every time you use a computer, every time whatever you do, is that Coke can. Now, the flip side of that is the amount of land you would need to take up with wind and solar to achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
And this is why a lot of the articles that I write, I focus on the scale of wind and solar.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the Energy Co website and they're talking about these renewable energy zones. There's 5 of them in New South Wales.
The one around Dubbo.
That one, the Central West Arana, is 20,000 square kilometres. Now, on the Energy Co website, it explains it as a modern day power station. So 20,000 square kilometres. The other one in New England's 15,000 square kilometres. The one down south, they don't even have a figure on it.
That's back at Griffith on the flat country.
Well, down near the Victorian border.
And there's also one out towards Hay and out that way.
Yeah, so that one's even bigger than the ones, and they haven't even stated how big it's going to be.
Yeah.
This is the scale of it, and the policy direction paper put out by the Victorian government in March 2022, it was talking about offshore wind and advocating for offshore wind. And one of the points that they used was that if you were to rely on wind and solar alone in Victoria to get to net zero, you would need 70% of Victoria's agricultural land to get there. Now, it stated that Victoria had 127,000 square kilometres of agricultural land. 70% of that would be 89,000 square kilometres, which is the size of Serbia.
Ridiculous.
That's the amount of wind and solar panels that you would need to get to net zero just in Victoria.
There is some good news on there's the renewable energy zone at Dubbo, which basically starts at Golgong, Mudgee, and all the way to
Central West Arana, Wellington, Coolah, Dunedoo,
all that area.
Yeah, all that area.
There was a windmill that's been pulled back.
A lot of these projects. See, this is the other scam. A lot of these projects are falling over, but
because they're not getting the money.
No, they get the money.
All right.
They get the money.
They get the money.
This is the point. They get the subsidies. They don't even have to start the project to get the subsidies. But do they pay the subsidies back when these projects fall over? Where does that money go? This is the big questions we should be asking because it's our money. It's taxpayers' money. We're not getting any new roads for this stuff. We're not getting any new rail. We're not getting any new dams. We're not getting any new schools or hospitals or anything that we can look to and point to and say that's going to benefit our future, it's going to benefit our children, it's going to benefit the whole country. We get these projects that never even turn soil.
But they do make a lot of money for the investors.
Making a lot of money for the investors.
The investors are doing very well.
And then certain investors then fund political campaigns and certain political movements.
Can't mention any names.
You can't mention any names. And the gravy train rolls on. And then they paint people like us as climate deniers and all this rubbish. And you want to destroy the earth and you get these teals standing out there all day. They're standing out all day handing out for these candidates, thinking that they're saving the world.
Well, we've come full circle, haven't we? Completed the whole scam. Starts here, ends up back here.
The old saying, you follow the money, and then hopefully if fund managers and around the world start funding nuclear.
Sam, it's not really as much as you can do. You know, there's the Italian word lucre. You know, the filthy lucre.
English term is follow the money.
follow the money, the biggest scam. And then you add in carbon credits and all. I mean, it's
carbon credit certificate. That's enough to give any carpetbagger a hard on.
Yes, correct.
Big Woody.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Any final comments? We're almost at the 2-hour mark.
No, we didn't get to talk about any polling.
What polling do you want to talk about?
News poll, 51-49.
Yeah.
Albo's little swan song. You can.
Is it going to be enough for? Is it going to be enough for Dutton to be able to win though?
No. Libs have got to have a 4 on it.
4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it. 4 on it.
Well, I think they'll get to 39 next time.
Well,
and that'll
means-
be close. 39
Well,
is close enough.
that means a lot of preference discipline from every other.
No, it doesn't.
Right. Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
This is what Paul
Just means
Bludger
the-
says.
Just means the votes have to go in the right place to the right.
So we've got the coalition at 50.2%.
On averages of all the other opinion polls.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the average. Yep.
Yeah.
So this is Paul Bludger. It takes
Yeah.
all the opinion polls, averages them out.
That's right.
So as Sam said, the coalition need a 4 currently, or 4 in front of them. At the moment, they're 38.5. So you say they have to at least get to 40.
That's exactly right.
Well, they're pretty close.
I disagree. I think 39 plus is enough.
Well, they're still not there.
But, we haven't seen Western Australia move yet. Western Australia's been sitting on the fences.
They're still on the Labor side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when that happens, you'll get your 39. If there's any movement in Western Australia.
Is there anything that we can learn from the Queensland election?
No, because remember, Labor have only got 5 seats in federal parliament in Queensland.
Yeah, one of which they'll lose.
We're going to lose Blair.
Yeah.
I disagree with you because I think the sitting members have got a personal vote and I think they'll get them over the line.
Yeah. Well, I think Queensland is very, very aggro.
Fair enough. They might let it out on Labor tomorrow. That's all.
Yeah, I think they'll still have plenty left over.
It'd be interesting. Yeah, interesting. I don't.
And Albanese is not exactly popular up there.
And he's a terrible campaigner.
Yeah.
Like lucky he had ScoMo and he botched up to the Yes campaign. So he hasn't got much form. He's got plenty of form to show.
Peter Dutton's an archetypal Queenslander. He'll do very well.
Yeah.
Now, have you had fun, gentlemen?
Of course, I've had fun.
We have.
We're still in probation?
Yes. I think you guys will be indefinite probation.
Okay.
I think that's probably justified.
Oh, I thought we've done okay. We've behaved ourselves, haven't we?
No guests. That's the new rule. Yes, you can't. You guys.
Oh, guests that we must agree on.
Unless anyone wants to call in.
I've got no problem. People talk back, but I'm just saying.
Technically, John wasn't a guest. He actually called in. So
bollocks.
I knew he was coming, but
yeah. No, I think if we have guests, we've said this publicly and we've said this privately. We must agree we must agree that we agree that these people come on.
if you guys were professional, I could bring anyone on. I could bring a Greens on. I could bring a Teal on.
Yeah.
And you guys would behave yourself and be professional.
Yeah.
You can't be trusted.
Yeah, I know.
I can't even bring on one of your good mates and you attack him.
It was just a bad day. I was tired. I'm not going to say the same excuse I said 2 hours ago.
Here's what I want to know. Have you called him?
No.
Why not? He's your good mate.
Oh,
we need to start a petition. Maybe on the viewers can help us out. Should Sam make up with John Ruddick, his good friend? You want to maybe talk about your former relationship with John?
Oh, we were good mates. We used to talk a lot at North Sydney Oval, watching the Bears on a Sunday afternoon.
So let's put it out there, everyone. Do you think Sam should kiss and make up with John Ruddick? I want to hear the comments. And what does Kill the Saints bring Allegra on, please? Well, you were going to organise that, weren't you? Weren't you going to organise Allegra?
That's not going to happen. None of the Teals will come on.
No.
I think she would probably make the most sense out of any of them, though, right?
Oh, she's even people within the Liberal Party think she's quite reasonable that way.
Yeah.
All we're mates with all the same bloke that we all know. He said she's one of the more smarter ones, even half as smarter than the most Liberal Party people.
That's not saying anything.
Dilmaz, yes, a Green wouldn't come on.
No.
The arguments don't hold up to scrutiny.
That's right.
They don't even want to answer candidate surveys or anything like that. So, I mean, they're militant. They're a force.
Well, be interesting what their vote is. Be interesting what their vote is in the inner city in Brisbane tomorrow. It'll be fascinating. Be interesting.
Is there much of a Jew vote up in Queensland?
No.
No, so that won't be a telling tale.
No.
Isn't there some Jews in the south?
No, not much.
Okay, right.
Okay, well, look, everyone, thank you for watching today. I don't know how I got through it.
That's a bit harsh on us. I thought we behaved ourselves today.
I like being harsh on you. It's tough love.
Fair enough.
Tough love. Now,
Gotta keep tabs on me.
if you want to show Sam and Richard and me some love, head to Buy Me a Coffee and throw us a few dollars there. It's much appreciated. Also, the main important thing, if you want to stay up to date, now you can sign up to the Commanding the Narrative website and get a weekly newsletter from me. The short, well, they're not that short because there's always a lot going on. But we normally doing 2 podcasts a week. Articles I write, events coming up. It's the best way to stay up to date. Don't rely on social media because we're shadow banned everywhere. We're almost about to be deleted off YouTube. We've got another strike just recently. So that's another good point I should raise. I noticed a lot of people are watching on YouTube today. Please head over to the Rumble to the exact same thing. But Rumble doesn't censor us, so YouTube does. And we're hanging on by a thread. I can see our account being deleted at any point. We even got a strike against Kevin Lockray for medical misinformation, despite the fact that Kevin was a lieutenant colonel in the Australian military and worked with the British military on biological warfare. So if anyone should know anything about COVID and anything like that, it should be Kevin, not some douchebag at YouTube. But head over to Rumble. It's the best way to keep up to or to follow us without the censorship. Dill Maz has a final comment. Good times, gentlemen. Aussie banter is well and truly alive. Yes, it is.
In the real world, mate, we do still banter each other.
Yes, that's right. It's all fun and games. It's all banter, and it's all a lot of fun.
All spare love and war.
And thank you for the audience for contributing as well in the chat. I would have loved some calls, but maybe next time you can get on the phones and ring through. We'd like to speak to you. But until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.